AskReddit by not gonna get caught. Are you cheering for an Airbnb collapse? Why or why not? I can hardly believe the fees and taxes Airbnb charges these days. It makes it more expensive than a hotel. Airbnb. Did I miss something in the news? Is there a threat of it collapsing? Deleted. I just want multifamily housing to be legalized in my area, man. The concept of missing middle housing, between apartments and attached SFH, is what's driving up costs. Problem is, it costs a lot to build home, and those don't make money for the builders. Yes. It sucks for the original and genuine Airbnb people who maybe let people stay with them in their own house for a few nights to make a bit of extra money. But if people are literally buying houses just to use them as Airbnb houses for profit, that's taking housing away from people who genuinely need them for living in. That's what I find despicable. Thank you. The people renting a room for a few days or the small studios built above a garage or in the basement were great. The owners lived in the actual house and just rented out extra space. Years ago I stayed in one in London that I found on Airbnb. The house was a massive pre-Victorian with a maid's quarters walk down that had a private entrance. The owners lived in the main house. Yes. Definitely. Absolutely. Airbnb plays a role in the housing crisis that many cities suffer from. It plays an even worse role in the destruction of rural touristy areas in many places. My home, for example, on the Scottish west coast, there are so many areas where locals simply can't afford to live. Ironically, the worst industry affected is tourism. Airbnbs and AMP holiday homes push the price of houses up so far, nobody can afford to stay in AMP. Work in hospitality. Airbnb owners are taking to the papers recently to complain that they simply can't get cleaners for their properties. Yes, but not across the board. I want it to collapse for those that bought a house just to put it on Airbnb. Many of those homes are in neighborhoods that don't want weekly renters showing up. Families put a lot into their homes and want a good neighborhood with other friends and families. I hope these people lose it all after trying to make a buck on other people's efforts. No one wants to live next to a hotel. If people are renting out a room in their house, like it was in the beginning, I'm all for this approach. 81% of Airbnb's US revenue, $4.6 billion, comes from whole unit rentals, those rentals where the owner is not present during the time of the rental, rising from 78% in the prior year. https://www.alla.com/news/hosts-multiple-units-key-driver-airbnb-growth. So, pretty much the entire company's basis of revenue, lol. Burn that company to the ground. Good riddance. Yes, it's helping to destroy the housing market in many countries and, frankly, it doesn't seem to offer any advantages over traditional hotels anymore. I'd much rather stay at a hotel chain where you can expect an okay stay at worst. Definitely cheering for it. The new owner of our apartment building is some rich California asshole who evicted 80% of the tenants. Many people lived here for years. He posted eviction notices for a number of people on Christmas Day. Recently the city put a stop work order when it found out he had no permits to all the renovation work they had done after the evictions. The Airbnb revenue collapse would be divine justice. I hope he doesn't get a single Airbnb rental. California out-of-state investors are such assholes. Fuck 'em. I'm cheering this collapse like the NFTs. So upwards of 50% of residential properties in my town are B&B, self-catering, Airbnb, etc. There has been a housing shortage for years. House prices are massively overinflated, so only investors can buy them for even more holiday lets. The waiting list, even if you're homeless to be accommodation by our council, is months, years if you aren't legally homeless. Yes, I would love for the place I live to have affordable properties. Hotels are actually nice places to stay and we're starving for affordable housing out here. Yes, because too many shitty owners on there. I'm every aspect. Treat guests like shit and don't follow laws. It's like a new law for slumlords. I have a friend that only uses Airbnb now and I've lost count of the infections she's had from the showers. I'm cheering on a Ticketmaster collapse. Did you mean Ticket Mayfair? Fuck Airbnb. I had a job opportunity in a resort town but I couldn't live there because all the property was owned by either retired people and their Airbnbs or were second homes for Canadians. All my co-workers had to drive for 30 minutes to an hour for work and I didn't own a car, so my only option was to live in the fucking town where even a bedroom for rent was between $900 and $1,200. I ultimately had to quit. Yes. Housing should be for people who actually live there, not for tourists. It's displacing people from communities. I remember when it started it was great. You could get a much cheaper place to stay than a hotel. Now it's more expensive than staying in a hotel and I have to do a proper clean and get charged a cleaning fee. No thanks. Cheaper to stay at a hotel. Yes. And if someone I come across tells me they have or on Airbnbs, I instantly think of them as grifters. Airbnb is playing a massive role in the housing crisis that is cursing every city and tourist destination in the country. Airbnb should be strictly regulated to serve tree houses and shipping container mill suites, not half of the entire rental and SFH stock in every town within flight distance to a major city. At the very minimum, if you think you need more than 2 units, I think you can just go toss yourself. On top of that, you have to do chores or the host has a complete breakdown and charges you extra. I can't wait until the whole platform implodes and I will celebrate when hosts are forced to sell their multiple properties. Hell yeah, it has fucked the housing market. Hotel businesses should not be allowed to operate in residential areas. Which is exactly what Airbnb rentals are. Aside from the local residents needing to deal with tourists who want to party on vacation, it takes away a home that could be available for a local resident, and drives up prices with artificial scarcity. Sure. It's such a crappy brand. Sneaks around local zoning laws to make what are essentially unregulated hotels, fucks with local housing economies, and overall is a terrible user experience. Last minute cancellations. So many misleading listings, absurd rules, overpriced cleaning fees, etc. I've stopped using them altogether, and just opt for a chain hotel where I know exactly what I am going to be getting. Yes. Absolutely. Airbnb was great when it was 75% legitimate bed and breakfasts, and the rest being mainly basement or above garage separate apartments with the homeowner living in the main house. Once properties started being purchased specifically to be rented out as Airbnbs, and people got insanely greedy, extreme fees and rules, it was only a matter of time before it collapsed. It's a proven source of rising housing costs and it kills historic cities. Adam Something did a good video explaining it in depth, but here's my take on it. Companies buy the house apartment, rent it for nights instead of months, make tens of thousands more because of it. It's just a system designed to give rich people more money, really. I am happy to see cheap and scammy Airbnb fail. I hated people turning regular homes into hotels most of the year. The idea of renting out a mansion, penthouse, castle, remote cabin with a view, etc. for a weekend is something I hope survives. Not across the board, but I did have an Airbnb host in Chicago that was extremely over the top, hammered us with a 3-page rulebook and chores upon checkout. Also, it was in a duplex house thingy and I guess the host had the upstairs tenant employed to do cleanup. But when texting with the host about a broken TV, she said to me, "I'll have my girl come replace it when you get back." We had just left for the day, so she had her upstairs girl monitoring us. If you're that controlling over people staying in your home, maybe don't rent out your home. Not to mention she did have cleaning fees on top of expecting us to do 90% of the cleanup upon checkout. Why did you book if they were hammering you with a 3-page rule book? I see people complain about this constantly, but have never in my dozens of Airbnb rentals ever dealt with this because I would never book a place that had this shit. It seems so easy to avoid. What the hell am I missing that people keep complaining about this? Do they spring it on you after you've booked? Maybe unpopular opinion, but I think Airbnb reveals a problem rather than cause it. The problem being some people owning way too many houses. Even if Airbnb and all similar services collapse today, terrible landlords still exist and they will just raise the rent again. While companies are buying up houses in cash to generate tens of thousands a month in rentals. Yes, because all of those places should be owned by a primary resident. Absolutely. VRBO can go next. Also stop investment groups from mass buying up housing and we can solve a lot of the housing issues in this country. Cheering the collapse because of deceptive business practices. I would also cheer for the collapse of investment firms buying houses as an investment and driving up both rental prices and home prices, because they can charge more for rent than they would make as returns for investing in the stock market. Yes. Fuck Airbnb. I made a reservation 6 months ago for a condo right next to a stadium in a metro area for a popular concert. They just cancelled my reservation because the property owner no longer meets their requirements. Now it's too late to find even a hotel that's not 4x the original price. I paid $1,200 for concert tickets and I have nowhere to stay now. Fuck you Airbnb. Never again. Taylor Swift is gonna be super sick though. Collapse, no. Significantly regulated, and have the company actually be responsible for ensuring compliance, yes. Not cheering, no. Airbnb was cool in the early days. But clearly they were operating at a loss for a few years, like Uber, and other similar styles of business, to capture market share. Now Airbnb is more expensive than hotels in many cases, and they hammer you with tons of rules and added bullshit fees. Why do I have to follow the rules to clean the fucking Airbnb for you, and still get hit with a cleaning fee? When I can go to a hotel and basically trash the place without damage, and walk out no fees or anything. That's what the hotel staff handles and it's built into price. I want options. If Airbnb is a good deal, I'll think about it. If Airbnb keeps going down this path, I'll just not use it. I'll go to a hotel. But I'm not cheering for any collapse. Completely agree. In moderation, Airbnb provided a good service. It just ballooned out of control and caused a wild amount of pretty large consequences. The problem is the alternatives suck. Hotels jumped in cost too, often paired with worse service. Permit the original couch rental, spare room and otherwise provider occupied home. It was good until it swallowed real estate. Without question. They and landlord investors have shattered the housing market. Collapse? No. But I do think that in general having fewer people buy up those properties for the sole purpose of renting as an Airbnb is better. I think house rentals have their place. And an easy place to both list and book them is a good thing. I just also think it got out of hand. Which tends to happen. They are great for stuff like bachelor parties or trips with big groups. But if it's just a few people, hotels are often a better value. I agree with this and I think the Airbnb market will sort itself out in short time. Too many people jumped in and there is too much Airbnb supply. People will get out when it's no longer profitable to operate them and I think we are getting close to that point. It's not all bad either. I live in an area with high vacancy. Airbnbs have been the catalyst for some rehabs in my area. Yes. I live in an area of NY that is oversaturated. Yes, finding places to rent or have a home are bad enough as it is without people buying second or third homes and just Airbnb them all the damn time. Fuck yes I am. Airbnbs have basically wiped out accessible housing in my neighborhood and caused such an inflation in price that even with combined incomes, Miso and I still can't land a place. And every time a property comes up for something close to reasonable, these wannabe mini tyrants start a bidding war and drive the number through the roof while waiving inspections and appraisals. I qualify for a VA loan, but the process takes time and requires inspections and appraisals that can't be dismissed. By the time the wheels start rolling, the property is gone. If you're an Airbnb owner on this thread, fuck you. I mean this with every fiber of my being. You're a plague and you should be ashamed of yourselves. Yes, we need the homes for real people to live in them. Yes, I want a house, dang it. Because they have destroyed the housing market in many neighborhoods. Mine included. Absolutely am. Fuck that stuff. The price gouging on rentals is insane and of course it drove the cost of actual housing way up. This shit collapsing will mean more affordable housing overall. Fuck Airbnb. I'd just like to feel like I can realistically buy a house someday. If Airbnb needs to die in the process, then so be it. Yes. I live in Vancouver and it's destructive in an already insane housing and rental market. Fuck that entire industry. Yes, 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 end this shitty company and all others like them. Whilst we're at it, can it be arranged to bankrupt the MFs who created and massively profited it? They need to start having property tax multipliers or something for the people buying up single family homes just for Airbnb. Yes. It's unfair to neighbors and we are desperately short on housing. Vacation travel should be less important than housing for locals. It seems unlikely that it'll go under. I'd like to see individuals and corporations getting taxed much higher on 10+ properties. Make it far less profitable. Abso-fucking-lutely. Houses should be homes, not investment side gigs for the already wealthy. Let's build communities, not ghost towns of wealthy vacationers. Kind of, they fucked over the housing market in many areas. Can't wait for the smug ass Airbnb landlords I see constantly on Instagram posting about their hustle to go bankrupt. I live in Portland, ME, and the housing market is fucked, in large part due to STRs. Australia has an awful Airbnb problem, where our housing crisis is spiraling out of control. Fuck am I say.